Hello and welcome to The Insider, a show designed to clue you into the biggest news, events and announcements inside the video games industry, discussing with you some things you may know, some things you may not, and the glue that holds it all together is a little bit of my own opinion. My name is Paul James, thank you very much for watching, and let's kick off the episode. So rumours about Nintendo and its IP fly around all the time. It's not a few days without something new emerging about a particularly prominent IP or something that the company's doing or their online plans or all sorts. Some of this stuff is founded, some of it's not, some of it who knows where it comes from. But a few substantial things have emerged this week as we get ever closer to E3, we're only a month away now, that seem to carry a little bit of weight with them. And in this episode of The Insider, we're going to discuss those two games, the two IP that those rumours pertain to, and break down what it means. So come along for the ride. So the first of the rumours is one that started on 4chan and on Reddit, but has now been verified by a lot of larger journalists within the games industry, and it relates to Star Fox, which is an interesting IP for us to be discussing given the disastrous release of Star Fox Zero on the Wii U only a couple of years ago, and the general consensus that we weren't going to see any more from this IP for a while. But what has emerged is that Retro Studios, the same team responsible for Metroid Prime 1 through to 3, as well as Donkey Kong Country Returns and Tropical Freeze, are going to be working on a Star Fox game. And not only just a simple Star Fox game, but one that has been dubbed and seems to be leaked officially as Star Fox Grand Prix. And if that makes you think racing game, you're not wrong for thinking that. It sounds like it's going to be a racing game. One that kind of harnesses some of the best aspects of both F-Zero and its fast racing sort of approach that it used to implement there, and Diddy Kong Racing, interestingly enough, something that we've not seen since the Nintendo 64 days. It seems to be pulling on the adventure modes of Diddy Kong Racing, the hub worlds, the boss races of Diddy Kong Racing, and then takes advantage of the fast racing gameplay approach of what we've seen in F-Zero games over the years. And it seems to be merging those two aspects to create this alternative, I guess, to what we see Nintendo doing with the Mario Kart franchise. We don't know too much more than that, but with E3 just around the corner, you'd have to think that if this is true, we're going to be hearing about it quite soon.
The name's Fox. Fox McCloud.
So for my take, now if you've followed me or any of the work that I've done at Player 2 or past outlets over the years, or even some of my podcasting cameos over the last 12 months, you'd know that this is not my retro game. I love retro, I love what they do. Their games that they've released in the form of the Metroid Prime games and the Donkey Kong games have been fantastic. I can't really complain with any of those 5 games that they've released over the course of the last 15 to 20 years. They've been awesome. But this is not what I'd hoped to see from retro. Now, I'm not saying that Grand Prix is going to be bad, or that they should continue working on Metroid Prime, or they should continue working on Donkey Kong. I had this great picture in my head of them working on a Kid Icarus game, a third-person action-adventure Kid Icarus game that I guess we could best compare to something that we've seen in the Legend of Zelda universe, except that with Pit and his unique abilities, i.e. the flying and those sorts of things, and the fact that we don't see a huge amount outside of Darksiders really messing around with kind of this angels and demons sort of clashing component. It would have been really interesting to see what they could do there. But it doesn't seem that's what they're going to be working on, and so we've got Star Fox Grand Prix instead, if that is of course true. But I also find that in itself quite interesting. I think about the fact that Nintendo has Mario Kart and it's carved out I won't even say a niche, it basically just wins over anyone who picks up a controller. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has already well and truly outsold what the original version of the Mario Kart 8 game did on the Wii U, and that's fair enough. There's a larger install base, there's a more engaged user base that's got the Switch, but it doesn't feel like it's necessarily the best use of Retro's talents, unless this is there's been some complications in the rumours here. It just feels a little bit odd for them to be kind of diving down the racing game pathway here, given that we have such a prominent racing game already on the Nintendo Switch platform, one that is selling millions of units still every year. I'm not too sure about where this is headed. I wish them well. I trust what Retro does. They make excellent games, but I have to wonder whether this is perhaps the right decision to be making or not. But time will tell.
Entering Corneria's orbit.
So the second of those prominent Nintendo IP to have been leaked in the last week has been relating to Pokemon. The game is supposedly to be called Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu, and if the name didn't give it away, it does seem to be pulling a little bit on what we've seen in the Pokemon Go mobile game. And that might include things like curveballs and those sorts of aspects that we've seen, maybe inventory management, use of items, those sort of things. It seems like it's only going to pull lightly on those if any of the rumours and speculation so far are to be confirmed at some point. Who knows? But it's not a core entry in the franchise, so it's not Gen 9. It does in fact seem to be buying time for Gen 9 to release, but it's a Pokemon game. There's going to be 2 entries. It's going to sell millions of copies on the Switch. It's going to sell a lot of Switches for the company as it is. It's going to be huge. The announcement is supposedly going to be coming later this month, and that seems to be verified by the fact that the same company responsible for registering Pokemon Sun and Moon online, so copyrights, websites, domain names, all those sorts of things, has done the same when it comes to this Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu. Does that mean it's true? Who knows? But we're going to discuss more of that next.
It's a battle! That's what I'm talking about!
Nintendo has been quite open in discussing the fact that they have looked closely at the successes and failures of Pokemon Go and how that is going to inform future entries of the franchise, and what they kind of ask of Game Freak when they are developing entries in that franchise. It is an important dynamic to keep in mind that Nintendo publishes these games, they get released on their platform, but it is Game Freak that develops. It's their choice they can ultimately make. Nintendo can nudge and request things, but it is in the hands of Game Freak at the end of the day. But it does seem like the success of what occurred with Niantic and Pokemon Go has informed much of the development of this Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee game. But that remains to be seen. What I also think is this is quite clearly Nintendo stalling or buying time for Gen 9 to arrive, which presumably will not happen until 2019. As far as I'm concerned, 2018 release for the next core Pokemon game is just out of the question. It was only at E3 last year where the game was confirmed to be in development, and when I say the game, I mean a Pokemon core entry. But we didn't see a name, we didn't see anything. It was just Pokemon game coming in the future to Nintendo Switch. That was it. So in the space of a year, or I guess 9 months really, for the game to be in a state that can be shown, that could potentially be playable, that could be then on the way to release 3 to 4 months later, just doesn't quite click. Timelines don't work like that so well. And Game Freak, for as awesome as they are getting games out the door and pumping out releases, there's a lot of pressure on this next core Pokemon entry, and I doubt that Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu are that, because they've just not given enough time to really gel and click and come together. It could be a fantastic game, but it's not going to be that monolithic jump that so many people are expecting from the next entry, given that it's going to be releasing on a home console as opposed to a handheld like we've seen for 25 plus years, or 25 years.
Now, Thunderbolt!
And so that wraps up another episode of The Insider. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider hitting the like, share and subscribe buttons. They're all down below here, as well as that notification bell, so that you're alerted to new episodes of Patched, the Video Games Club, The Insider, Player 2 Plays, The Late Game Review, and a whole lot more, all stuff that can only be found at our YouTube channel. So again, hit those buttons, especially that notification bell, and we look forward to joining you in future episodes. If you like written content, make sure to visit the website player2.net.au, where you'll find reviews, previews, opinion pieces, news, features, the Player 2 Writer's Draft, and heaps more. There's some awesome stuff there, so please don't hesitate to go and check it out. We've got some awesome talent writing there. We're also on Patreon. That is patreon.com/player2au. Consider kicking in a few dollars. You help grow the Player 2 dream. But at some of the higher tiers, you get early access to episodes, you get exclusive episodes, and at the top tier, you can join us in the monthly Player 2 podcast. So there's some enticing offers there, and we hope you check them out, and we hope that you can support us as we continue to grow. For rolling updates, you can find me at PaulJamesP2 on Twitter. The website you can find at Player2AU on Twitter. And until next time, they're all the rumours relating to Star Fox and Pokemon. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you later.